Before we get into the topic of this video, I'd like to make a correction about my last 8mm Mauser video. I said that when I saw rust inside of the German SMK rounds, I said that that was because some moisture had gone into the rounds, and some viewers corrected me. Actually, what they said was that the Germans manufactured that powder quickly, and so because of that, there was less of a process to remove the acid that was inside of the powder, and that acid broke down and caused oxidization inside of the case, which is the rust that I saw. So that was not a sign of moisture getting in, but more just the quick production of Germany in the middle of the war. All right, now let's get into the topic of this video. Today I have some Greek ammo from 1940 that was actually sent to me by a viewer. So, to the viewer who sent this to me, thank you so much. Failure to fire. There we go. 2,541. $2,459. So for whatever reason, these are not getting picked up by the extractor when I pull them out, so they're pulling out part way, but not all the way. That one did get pulled out. 2,522. That one did not get pulled out. Maybe the rim is just a little bit tighter on these. 2,482. $2,450. Okay, I have a second clip of the Greek ammo. $2,464. $2,456. $2,499, and I had a sticky bolt. But it did extract just fine. $2,467. Our velocity low was 2,450, and our velocity high was 2,541. That leads to a total spread of 91 feet per second from the lowest to the highest, and this is about average for most military surplus ammo. Our average was 2,482 feet per second, which puts this on the higher end of what we can usually expect for ammo in this weight category. There have been a few that have been outliers on the low end, and there was one that was an outlier on the high end, that is the S&B ammo, but for the largest number of rounds, this is on the higher end of what we can expect. I did have one round that failed to fire on the first primer hit, but fired correctly on the second primer hit, which means 89% of the rounds fired correctly, and 11% fired on the second primer hit. Now, I will be honest that the actual number of bad rounds in this whole batch of ammo could have been lower or higher than that, because I didn't have that many to test. I would love to get my hands on more of this ammo and give you a more accurate number in the future, but just know that failures to fire are possible with Greek ammo of this age. You'll also notice, as I talked about in the video, I did have an issue with some rounds extracting fully. And I want to be clear, they would extract out of the chamber, but they would not extract all the way to the ejector. Now, there could be a number of reasons for this. It's possible that just some sort of debris got in between the extractor. So that was a gun malfunction and not an ammo malfunction, and I couldn't replicate this later. I did try it a few times just to kind of see. I'm honestly unsure exactly what caused this, but I felt like I needed to comment on it since it did happen in the video. So I wanted to start by showing you the box for this ammo. It says 20, which is the number of cartridges. You might often hear 7.9 or 7.92. That is just the same thing. However, in America, we often say 8mm. SS is likely the cartridge designation, and then down here we have PCH. Now, you might be asking why the head stamp says EK, and the box says PCH. Well, these are both saying the same thing, but in different languages. PCH is, in French, powder and cartridge Hellenist. Hellenist is another word for Greek. However, the EK on the head stamp stands for Greek Cartridges, which is short for Greek Powder and Cartridge Company. So PCH and EK both stand for the same thing, just in different languages. I want to take a quick second to show you the difference between our 1940 ammo today and the 1950s ammo that we've tested in the past. You'll notice that this round looks more worn. That's just because this one was exposed to the elements. However, if we take a look at the head stamps, we will see that this one just has the EK, whereas this one has the letters in Greek, and this one from 1940 is not dated, but this other one is dated 1952. However, both do have the same color of primer sealant. My resource for what I'm about to talk about is 7.9 by 57 Mauser Ammunition for the Collector, Volume 2, Countries of the World, by Jeremy M. Chubbuck. Sometimes he shows up in the comments. I hope I just said his name right. So if you see him in the comments, be sure to say hi and thank you for this great resource. But as we talk about the history, that is one of the major things I'm going to be citing. Greece made 8mm ammo from the 1920s to the 1950s, so that is a pretty wide margin for the ammo that you could come across. Most of what we're seeing in the United States right now is from the early 1940s. However, you can find some stuff from the 50s as well, as we've seen previously. As we talked about with the head stamp, this is manufactured in the Greek Powder and Cartridge Company, which does have a few different names, but I will be sure to include those on the screen in Greek and in French. While some of this ammo was made for export, the stuff I have is marked on the head stamp EK, which the book says is manufactured for in Greece use, but the box is labeled PCH, which the book says is for export use. So it's possible that this round could be either one, or that this ammo was put into a box that didn't match it by somebody along the process to when it got to me. Now, let's talk about the bullets. The bullet weight low is 195.4 grains, and the high is 197.1 grains, which gives us a total spread of 1.7 grains from the lowest to the highest. Now, for military surplus ammo, that's not exceptional. It's not bad. It's just kind of in the middle of what we can expect. Now, that does give us an average of 196.5 grains, which actually makes it the lowest military surplus ammo we've had in this weight category so far. The next lowest is at least 1 grain heavier. Does that make any actual difference? I don't really think so, but I still thought that it was interesting. So here I have some bullets to show you. As you can tell, this one is pulled apart. We'll talk about that in a second. One thing I want to note is that I think the SS on this is indicating that it is made to the same German specification. As you can see, this is a Fedarm round, which is remanufactured German ammunition, and the two rounds are virtually identical except for some coloration differences. Although this ammo does have a bimetal jacket, so the jacket attracts a magnet, the core is lead, so this ammo won't have any armor-piercing capabilities. It is just magnetic because of the jacket. Next, let's talk about powder. The powder weight low was 43.2 grains, and the powder weight high was 44.6 grains. So that does lead to a total spread of 1.4 from lowest to highest, again, about normal for military surplus ammo, and our average was 43.75 grains. Again, this is about what we would expect with other ammos in this category. Finally, let's talk about powder. We have seen flake powder on this channel many times before. However, I will note that this flake powder is smaller than other flake powders we have seen in the past. So let's talk about what I thought about this ammo. The first thing that I want to point out is that I did have a failure to fire with this ammo. However, it did fire on the second primer hit. Now, I would say that as far as priorities go, whether or not the round fires is probably the number one thing for me. As long as the round fires safely, I'm willing to use it for plinking and everyday shooting for almost every situation. Now, when I have ammo like this that works most of the time, I'll be honest, I'm still willing to buy it if it's really cheap because I'll take it to the range when I'm shooting by myself. I wouldn't give it to somebody who doesn't know what to do with military surplus ammunition that doesn't fire, but if I'm just shooting by myself, I don't really mind the occasional thing like that. I'll just work through it and have fun target shooting. I know there are differing opinions on that, but that's my opinion. Being a player in World War II, I think World War II era Greek ammo is really interesting. So I would say for the collector, this is a must-have. Now, right now, it's really readily available on the market, so maybe you buy it in bulk, shoot some of it, and save some of it for later. For the collector, this ammo is really cool. And a lot of collector-grade ammo, like this SMK ammo, is really expensive, whereas this ammo was used in World War II, and you can still get it at least right now for pretty cheap. Maybe someday that will change, but now it's readily available. One thing I would say about this ammo is that it is corrosive and it's Berdan primed, which means two things. You should clean the rifle, especially the bore, well after shooting this ammo in the appropriate cleaning methods. And number two, you probably won't be able to reload it if you live in the United States. Most people do not reload Berdan primed ammo. However, that being said, the powder and bullet are still in really good shape, so if you wanted to, you could pull the components, put them in brass cases that work well, and save some money depending on how much the ammo cost. Whether you plan on buying this ammo to shoot it, or collect it, or pull the components, one thing you should note is that this ammo will not be cheap forever. So, if you desire it, my recommendation is to buy it now while you still can. But I fired ammo that was over 80 years old, and I lived on.
Which proves it's hard to get the best of a man named John.
Hey, John. Hey, John.